Welcome to my channel. Simply Speak English. Part 1. My Secret to Speaking English Fluently. Welcome, my dear friends. Let me tell you something. I wasn't born speaking English. In fact, I struggled a lot. I remember how scared I was to even say a few words in English. My sentences would be wrong, my pronunciation terrible, and people laughed at me. I thought, maybe English isn't for me. But guess what? I didn't give up. And now I can speak fluently, confidently, and without fear. I'm here to tell you that you can do it too. You don't need to be born in the USA or go to a fancy school to speak English like a native. All you need is a desire to learn, a plan, and a bit of patience. In this lesson, I'll show you how I learned English, step by step. I've been through the struggle, and I know exactly what works. I'll also teach you how you can learn English in the most practical and fun way. By the end of this lesson, you'll feel more confident and ready to take your English to the next level. So, are you ready? Let's begin. Why is English so important? Let me ask you something. Why do you want to learn English? Is it because you want a better job? Do you want to travel and talk to people from different countries? Or maybe you just love the language and want to speak it fluently. Now think about this. Why is English so important in the world today? Here's the truth. English is the language of opportunities. It's spoken in almost every country, used in business, education, and even on the internet. If you know English, you can talk to millions of people, get better jobs, and explore the world without fear. So every time you feel like giving up, remember why you started. Think about the doors English can open for you. You are learning something that will change your life forever. My struggle with learning English. When I started learning English, I felt completely lost. I didn't know where to begin, and I was afraid of making mistakes. Speaking in front of others made me nervous, and I thought people would judge me. But one day I told myself, enough is enough. I will learn English no matter how hard it feels. I realized that learning English isn't about being perfect. It's about improving a little bit every day. And once I changed my mindset, everything became easier. Here's what I did, and you can do it too. Listening is the key. When babies learn a language, they don't start by speaking, right? They listen first. That's exactly what you need to do. Listening is the first and most important step in learning English. When I was learning, I started listening to simple things. I watched cartoons in English because they used easy words and clear sentences. I also listened to English songs. At first, I didn't understand everything, but I kept listening again and again. Slowly, I started recognizing words and phrases. Here's something you can do. Find a short story or video in English, something very simple. Don't worry if you don't understand every word. Just focus on the sounds and how the words are spoken. The more you listen, the better you'll understand. Start reading in English. Reading was another big challenge for me. I remember opening a book and feeling scared because I didn't know so many words, but I realized that I didn't need to read big books. I could start small. I began with children's books because they use simple language and pictures to help you understand the story. I also read short articles about topics I liked, like food and travel. When I found a new word, I wrote it down, looked up the meaning, and tried to use it in a sentence. You can do this too. Pick something you enjoy reading. It could be a recipe, a short story, or even the back of a cereal box. The goal is to make reading fun and not stressful. The more you read, the more your vocabulary and confidence will grow. Speak without fear. This was the hardest part for me, speaking. I was so scared of making mistakes that I avoided speaking altogether. But then I realized something. Mistakes are a part of learning. To practice speaking, I started talking to myself. Yes, you heard that right. I would stand in front of a mirror and have small conversations with myself. For example, I'd say, "Good morning. How are you today?" Or, "What are you going to do today?" It felt silly at first, but it worked. If you want to improve your speaking, try this today. Look in the mirror and talk about your day. Start with simple sentences like, "My name is," or "I like to eat." The more you speak, the more confident you'll feel. Fun tongue twisters. One thing that helped me with pronunciation was practicing tongue twisters. But I didn't start with difficult ones. I used simple and fun ones, like Betty bought some butter, but the butter was bitter. A big black bug bit a big black bear. These are fun, and they train your tongue to pronounce words clearly. Practice them slowly at first, and then try saying them faster. You'll see a big difference in your pronunciation. Homework for Part 1. Now, before we move to the next part of this lesson, I want you to try a few things today. Find a short video or story in English and listen to it. Read something simple and write down 3 new words. Stand in front of a mirror and talk to yourself for 5 minutes. Remember, learning English is a journey. Don't rush and don't compare yourself to others. Focus on improving a little bit every day. Part 2. How to speak English. Like a native and handle real conversations, you've already made amazing progress by learning about listening, reading, and building confidence in Part 1. Now, in this part, we'll dive even deeper. I'm going to teach you how to speak English like a native speaker, how to avoid sounding robotic, and how to handle real conversations confidently. I'll also share my personal experiences and the exact methods that helped me understand native speakers, ask better questions, and improve my fluency. By the end of this lesson, you'll feel more prepared to tackle real-world English conversations without fear. Let's start. How to stop sounding like a robot. When I first started speaking English, I sounded like a robot. My sentences were too formal, and I didn't know how to add emotion or natural rhythm. For example, I used to say, "Hello, how are you?" "I am fine." It didn't feel real or friendly. I realized that native speakers don't talk like that. They use a mix of short phrases, contractions, and casual expressions. For example, instead of saying, "I am going to the market," they say, "I'm going to go to the market." Here's how I fixed it. 1. Listen to real conversations. I started watching TV shows, movies, and even interviews. I paid close attention to how people talk naturally. For example, instead of, "What are you doing?" I noticed they say, "What you doing?" 2. Practice with casual phrases. Start using contractions like "I'm" instead of "I am," "you're" instead of "you are," "it's" instead of "it is." This small change made my English sound more natural. 3. Add emotions to your words. When you speak, don't just focus on the words. Focus on how you say them. For example, instead of saying, "That's amazing," with no emotion, say it with excitement. "Wow, that's amazing." This makes your English sound alive and real. How to ask questions like a native. I used to feel awkward asking questions in English. I didn't know how to make my questions sound natural. For example, I'd ask, "What is your name?" instead of, "What's your name?" To improve, I learned these tricks. 1. Start with friendly openers. Native speakers often start with casual phrases like, "Hey, can I ask you something? So what's up?" 2. Ask open-ended questions. Instead of questions that can be answered with yes or no, ask questions that make people talk more. For example, instead of, "Do you like coffee?" ask, "What's your favorite drink?" Instead of, "Do you work here?" ask, "What do you do for a living?" 3. Use follow-up questions. When someone answers, show interest by asking something related. For example, if they say, "I'm a teacher," you can ask, "That's great. What subject do you teach?" This makes your conversations flow naturally and helps you connect with people. How to handle mistakes. When I was learning English, I used to feel embarrassed about making mistakes. I'd stop speaking and think, "What if they laugh at me?" But one day, I realized something. Even native speakers make mistakes. Here's how I started handling my mistakes. 1. Laugh it off. If you say something wrong, smile and correct yourself. For example, if I said, "I go to the market," I'd laugh and say, "Oops, I went to the market." This made me feel more relaxed. 2. Focus on communication, not perfection. Remember, the goal is to communicate, not to be perfect. If people understand you, that's what matters. 3. Learn from your mistakes. Every time I made a mistake, I wrote it down and practiced the correct way. For example, if I said, "She don't like apples," I'd practice saying, "She doesn't like apples," until it felt natural. How to understand native speakers. I used to feel completely lost when native speakers talked. They spoke so fast, used slang, and I couldn't keep up. 1. Focus on key words. You don't need to understand every single word. Just focus on the important words. For example, if someone says, "I'm gonna grab a bite and head to the park," you only need to understand grab a bite, eat something, and head to the park. 2. Get used to their speed. I listen to podcasts and videos at a slower speed. Many apps let you slow down the audio. Once I got comfortable, I increased the speed little by little. 3. Learn common slang. Native speakers use a lot of casual words. If you found this lesson helpful, share it with others who are learning English. Let's grow together and support each other. I'll see you in our next lesson, where we'll explore even more exciting topics. Keep practicing, my friends, and take care.